We just when you thought our Halloween episode was over, got one more Halloween topic for you. It came up in the last week. It's fun to cover. Also, is it time to clean your siding? You want to get the mold and mildew off your vinyl or composite siding? We got some tips for you, some recipes on cleaners you could use, and to do it right. We're going to tell you what not to do as well. Also, coming up, the Flex Seal story we're finally going to cover this week. I know it's about, 3 weeks late, but this is a really cool story. We got that plus some squatters. What to do if squatters show up at your house? Even if you're not living in it yet, we're going to cover that too. It's all that and more in 1 minute on the Home Pros Radio Show.
The Home Pros Radio Show. Brought to you by Prime Lending. Home loans made simple. Welcome to the Home Pros Radio Show, the premier resource for the well-informed homeowner. With over 30 years of combined home inspection and renovation experience, your hosts, Tommy Donovan and Shane Hips, help you stay on top of your home improvement and home maintenance needs. Visit homeprosradio.com to access the trusted product and service providers that are a part of our Home Pros network. Find the Home Pros Radio Show on Facebook and Twitter for regular show updates and additional information on the topics covered on our show. To join the conversation, call 248-HOME-PROS. And now, your Home Pros, Tommy Donovan and Shane Hips.
And welcome to the Home Pros Radio Show. I'm Tommy Donovan with RIC Home Inspections.
And I'm Shane Hips with Closing Contractor.
With your RIC Home Inspections.
Yes,
This is the Home Pros Radio Show, your source for the advice, tips, and tricks that every homeowner needs to make sure your home is in the best shape possible. Another exciting week of not much going on. It's really slowed down.
Yeah.
And it really hit me, I guess, it's the interest rates that are doing it more than anything else, I think.
I think so.
Right?
Yeah,
Realtor
absolutely.
Telling me this morning is he actually explained it the best when he goes, hey, think about it this way. If you're sitting in your house and you have a nice, easy 3% interest rate on your mortgage, why would you move out, buy another house, upgrade, and pay twice as that?
Yeah.
Twice that.
Yes.
In interest rates.
Yeah, the interest rates will definitely put a halt to some of the stuff we usually deal with. So, and I'm wondering from my side, even is it going to get to the point, because there's high interest rates on home equity lines and rehab loans too. So is it going to get to the point where it's only people who have liquid capital, have the money sitting in the bank, that are going to be doing it? Because, our real estate transactions have slowed down as well. But, like I say, we always pick up on the renovations. But with the interest rates doing what they're doing now, I don't know. We're still moving along. But I could see if it keeps on, people are going to run out of that capital that they're sitting in the bank with, and have to get a home equity line. And it's like, do I really want to do that? I guess it's still not as bad as selling your house that has a low interest rate and borrowing for a whole other house with a higher interest rate. It'd be an easier pill to swallow if I'm just borrowing $20,000 at that higher interest rate.
Yeah.
For a renovation or something like that.
That's true. That's true.
So, it's still going to absolutely take a toll on all of it. It's going to affect everything in the housing market, I'm sure.
The client I just inspected for this morning, they don't have a house.
Okay.
So they've been living with relatives. So I guess the way that you look at it for them, they're not really moving out of anything. They just need to be in something.
Yeah,
which would explain why they're making a move now.
Yeah.
So, it makes that pill easier to swallow in that case.
Yes.
But still, it's like, man, it's going to be interesting to see what happens here.
Right.
In upcoming. So, folks out there who are inspectors, real estate agents, or in the real estate business, and shaking your head, is there something I did? No, I don't think it's something you did if the phone's not ringing. I had an agent tell me I hadn't had a single call last month.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow.
Yeah, that's
tough
when you're used to your phone blowing up all the time. But I'm sure some people that have put all that money aside that they were making are probably enjoying the slow time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would think so. I mean, I'm sure you still gonna start getting a little nervous, and it's like, okay, let's get going. But yeah, a little downtime.
And this is the time that I like to use to go out there and meet the people.
Yeah.
Go knock on doors, visit real estate offices and things like that. And then there's this voice in the back of my head going, hey, chill out, bro. Because when it gets busy,
Yeah.
you don't want to be too busy. You can shoot yourself in the foot that way.
Yeah,
So,
and who knows? We may have had this same conversation last year. It just wouldn't have had to do with the interest rate so much.
Yeah.
I mean, but you have slow weeks every now and then, and we just have to look at it. I'm trying to look at glass half full, not half empty here.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of the stuff just come in cycles.
I'm seeing people move from out of town. Last couple of clients I've worked with, one's from Portland, Oregon, and another one's from San Francisco,
Okay.
California. So we know we have a lot of listeners out there. So come on,
You need some home spaces.
I want to get busy.
But yeah, and I'm sure that's what we're going to see.
You
I
know,
mean,
people moving from
that's what we're
areas
going
of
to
the
see
country
more of.
where the cost of living is higher.
Yeah, and yes, and we always see people moving from out of town here anyway. I mean, I would say it seems like probably 50%, maybe not that much, but a lot of the people that are moving here are moving from other places. But yeah, if you were already planning on moving across the country, I don't know that you're going to freeze that plan. Some people will, but I'm sure some people will move forward with it because you look at the cost of living compared to the interest rates. I'm sure they're still going to end up saving money, even if they're paying more in interest. But the cost of living is so much less.
Yeah.
So-
So it kind of equals out, I
Yeah,
guess, if you
yeah.
will. I've got one coming up later this week that's going to be interesting. They called and asked me. They were just like, "Hey, I've got one for you. Great." I was booking it, and it turns out that it's a sixplex. And I'm thinking, "Whoa, this might take a couple of days," but it looks like it might be, I don't know, a former. I was thinking retirement home.
Right.
It was also pointed out to me it could have been like a halfway house or something like that, where it's just you got a bunch of rooms with their own living areas that are all joined together with their own kitchens. And I think it was funny because the real estate agent was like, "Well, you should be able to do it like in the afternoon." Because they're trying to get the tenants out,
Right.
so we can get in there and inspect. And I'm like, well, this is going to be like an all-day thing. And he's like, wow, it's just, each unit's just like, what, a room and a kitchen? And I'm like, yeah, but
That's that many kitchens.
if I had just
And
a
that many
room and a
bathrooms.
kitchen to inspect, that'd be fast. But each one of those units has a HVAC, a water heater, has water shutoffs, and all these other controls. On the mechanical side, you got to report on. That takes time. So
Yeah.
it would be interesting to see how. I might have a story or two about that one for next week's show.
So each one does have a separate kitchen unit. Okay.
Yeah. So it's
Ca-
gonna be-
Just when I saw the picture, I wasn't sure if it was going to be more of a shared kitchen unit. They just have their
Oh,
bedroom,
God, that would be
living
nice if
room.
It is.
Yeah.
We'll see. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, you'll have to update
Get
me
some
on how
more
that
details.
One.
Get the deets on that one.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that'll be interesting coming up later this week. One of the things I did want to cover that I wish I would have seen before last week's show, because last week was Halloween.
Right.
Or this past Monday was. I was Monday, by the way. I was thinking Sunday for some reason last week, but yeah, found a really interesting Halloween costume.
Okay.
There it is. We're showing it on the big screen behind us, folks who are listening on the podcast.
That's just
It's the
funny.
buyer's dad, which is very interesting in a number of different ways.
Yeah.
It's an actual costume from like one of the like Spirit.
So it is a
Halloween.
real costume?
Yeah,
Okay.
it looks like it is, and it says a little asterisk at the bottom says tape measure and flashlight are included.
Okay.
It's like, dude, I mean, really, all you need is jeans and a polo shirt and some reading glasses. That's an easy costume. It just surprised me that somebody would buy that. But it's really funny because it's the typical, stereotypical thing that folks characterize those buyers' dads. Yeah, you probably don't have to deal with that as much as I do.
No, I don't have to.
where you have someone second guessing you every step of the way.
I always hear about them.
Oh gosh, yeah, I've got some stories. Yeah, so it's like, I mean, there was. I remember one time there was a buyer's dad that was there, and he was like, "What about all this older house?" Well, it wasn't even that old. It was like late 70s. And he's like, "What about the paint?" And I'm like, "Well, what about it?" And he's like, "What if it's lead-based paint? Is it lead-based paint?" And I'm like, "Well, it has to be tested."
Right.
And he was like, "Well, do it." I'm like, "What? That's not my specialty. I'm not. I don't have a lab in the back of my truck. I just can't give you that information." He was like, "Well," and then he kind of looked at me like, "What kind of a home inspector are you?" And I'm like, "Dude, I just thought it was ridiculous." And I tried to explain to him, like, this house, even if that is lead-based paint, is not a hazard unless someone's going to go around eating chips off the wall.
Right.
But there was no convincing. So you get that.
Did they get it tested?
Who
knows?
If they did. I'm not sure. Huh. But yeah, I kind of just move that topic aside. That sort of thing. I've seen it where you have. I don't know what it is. I mean, I understand that you want to protect your kids, but at the same time, I also am like, you got to let your kids do this stuff. You
learn some things on their own.
You can't, and you can't figure it all out for them.
Right.
And sometimes you get in the way when you're trying to create drama when there doesn't need to be any.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. I just thought that was so funny, the buyer's dad costume. There was a meme that was going around recently. It was a real estate agent sent out on Facebook or Instagram or one of those, and it was it was a dude on a jet ski, pulling into the dock, and it said, like, the caption was "Buyer's dad showing up for the home inspection," and he was like, woo. It was really funny, but it's that kind of thing. Everyone, I guess, moans and groans with them. Realtors know the stories. Have you heard any interesting stories? Do you deal on you're usually on the seller's end a lot of times, fixing repairs. Do you ever have, any of those experiences where somebody's looking over your shoulder like, what are you doing that for? What's that for? What are you doing?
I mean, we have a little
Why
bit
are you doing it that way?
I have a little bit of everything. I mean, and that's why if someone says, "Oh, I was a contractor in Virginia." Okay,
oh, I like those.
Okay, I usually try to back out of those. I mean, honestly, because you don't want someone to come in and tell you how to do your job. I mean, that's why you're hiring me. If you want to do it, do it. I mean, and I'm fine with that. Mm-hmm. And we have people like just call out. We had somebody today send an email that got sent back to them. It was contact@closingcontractor.com. That's our email address. The office email. It's easy to get. So then it came back to them, and they called and said, well, it got returned. And so the office manager said, okay, it's contact@closingcontractor.com. And the lady was like, oh, it doesn't have an S on it? Well, that's, basically.
So that was Closing Contractors.
Like she think, I guess she just wants us to change everything so it fits whatever she wants.
It's your fault.
It's my fault that it didn't have an S on it, And you were told contact a closing contractor, but yeah, just things like that. People will second guess everything you do, no matter what you do.
My favorite.
There's certain ones that are going to second guess you.
The interesting ones I always run into is where I'm on an inspection, and buyers can sometimes be this way too. It's not always the buyer's dad, but I mean it could be anybody. Look at this. Look at the quality of this crap. It's like, that's cosmetic. I don't deal with that. I don't really care if there's a chip on the countertop or not.
Right.
I don't really care. Mm-hmm. And then there are those folks who are like that move from other parts of the country.
Yes.
And they start freaking out. They're like, oh, my gosh, there's only 15 inches of insulation in the attic.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay,
that's pretty normal.
That's not where they had it. That's not the way it was where I came from. And I'm like, you're moving from Michigan,
and you're not where you came from anymore.
Yes. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff. I've heard somebody tell me, I think it might have been one of the recent clients I just mentioned, that's not the way we did this. And we do this in California. And I'm like, yeah, it's a good thing in many ways. Because sometimes it's overkill.
Right.
And a lot of it has to do, and that's why we talk a lot about with real estate situations, when you're dealing with a real estate transfer and you're dealing with building codes, there's so many things that change from area to area. I mean, even if you're going through the building code book.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
I mean,
even in this state,
things change from not climate, but from region to region. But like you said, even in the state, there are things that are required in our state along the coast.
Yeah. Our foundation is not going to be the same up here where we are as it would be on the coast where it's all sand.
Yeah.
Here we got clay,
in the
and
upstate of
down
South
there is
Carolina,
sand.
where we have things like basements. You wouldn't dare build a basement down in Charleston.
You'd be down below sea level.
I know, right?
It might fill up pretty quickly.
Oh, man. Yeah, it would fill, especially a hurricane. Speaking of which, we do actually. We do have a. I'm going to go ahead and give ourselves a little credit here.
Okay.
Finally did remember to prepare that Flex Seal story. So we have a homeowner, or actually he's a homeowner, of course, but he also owns a business. And it's a gentleman who protected his business from the flooding of Hurricane Ian with Flex Seal and spray foam. And I saw the video, and it's pretty darn cool.
And everything worked.
Everything worked. So we're going to get to that a little bit later in the show when we get to the news desk.
That's definitely a good advertisement for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm surprised we're not seeing them jump. They've got to jump on that some way. But we're going to get to that later in the show. We've also got a homeowner in California for you California listeners out there, one of the most affluent neighborhoods in California. Landscapers find a little suspicious item in the back of a home's in the backyard, and it looks pretty fishy to me. But we're going to get to that. But before that, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about cleaning the exterior of your house. Some tips from Closing Contractor, and in regard to cleaning your house up, doing some fall cleaning, if you will, on the exterior of the house. Kind of a little bit of an extension of our fall maintenance checklist. So we'll dig into that after this quick break on the Home Pros Radio Show. If you're a home service provider who takes pride in your work and strives to be recognized as a trustworthy professional in your industry, the Home Pros Radio Show wants to hear from you.
Become a Home Pros Radio Show partner. Send us an email at ask@homeprosradio.com.
Your Home Pros Radio Show Expo listing and your featured appearances on our podcast are just the beginning when it comes to the ways that we can help brand your business on the Home Pros Radio Show.
It's a great opportunity. It's just an email away. ask@homeprosradio.com.
And welcome back to the Home Pros Radio Show. I'm Tommy Donovan with RIC Home Inspections, and I find stuff.
And I'm Shane Hips with Closing Contractor, and I fix stuff.
Yeah, and I found this article.
What'd you find?
In a very convenient place.
Where's that?
It's an article from the Closing Contractor blog, which leads us to our...
The photo from the field.
What are you looking at? I know what I'm doing.
Did you see that? This is one of my favorite photos from our presentations that we like to do at home shows and real estate offices and such. It's a nice exterior photo of a number of things going on the outside of the house. The biggest thing is it's dirty.
Oh, it's very dirty.
Yeah, and so in this photo, for those of you who are listening to our podcast, you can catch the photo on our Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all those places. At Home Pros Radio is where you can find us. On the photo is just it's a vinyl-sided house with some gutter issues, lots of stuff overflowing the gutters, splashing up against the foundation, causing a bunch of what people would call mold just because it's black, but it's not. It's just dirt.
Yeah.
And then mold and mildew growing on siding. And the question I always get is, why do I have mold growing on my house. Do I need to have it tested? Do I need, they get the, oh no, it's mold kind of thing. It's like, oh. All right. So, but no, it's not that bad. The reason why we have mold growing on our siding is because it's dirty. And because mold's not going to grow on vinyl.
Correct.
It needs to grow on a cellulose material. So what happens is when mold spores that naturally float through the air land on something that, like if you have a grass seed and you throw it on soil and then you water it, it's going to grow. Same thing with mold spores. If it lands on something that it can feed on and it gets wet, you're going to get stuff growing. Mm-hmm. And usually in the fall, we're talking about our fall maintenance checklist, we have leaves that are falling. If you have a house that's covered with trees all summer, it's been sitting there in the shade, maybe one side of it not getting sun so it can dry out, and you've got dirt and grime collecting on the house.
Yeah, and you've been cutting grass all summer, and it's
kicking
all that
stuff
dust.
Mm-hmm.
It's just sticking to the house. It's just giving you all kind of dirt and compost type stuff, just everything. All kind of organic materials.
Exactly. So, we've got, you can get mold growing on homes, and it's actually a lot easier to address than you would think. It's a combination of the right technique, cleaning technique, and the right cleaning solution, if you will.
There you go, solution. That's a good word.
It's a good way to do it. And so Closing Contractors put that information out there for you. You can find on their website, closingcontractor.com. Go to their news blog, and along with other stories, we like to kind of share those tips that Closing Contractor has. Vinyl is susceptible to some wear and tear over time. We've talked about the pros and cons of different types of siding.
Right.
Vinyl can actually become discolored if it's not regularly cleaned, if it is exposed to mold and mildew and dirt over time. Because if you think about it, if the areas that are uncovered might get sun bleached, and the areas that are covered and not cleaned.
Yeah, sort of like putting your hand on you when you're out in the sun.
Like
the joke where somebody writes on their friend's chest or whatever while they're asleep. That kind of stuff.
That's it. Yeah, or there's the old it's the Playboy Bunny tan line thing.
Oh yeah, put a little sticker right there when they lay in bed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I've always done that. I like to do it.
You got a Playboy Bunny.
Right on my right bicep. No, so you have that can happen with vinyl. The other thing that I didn't realize that's mentioned in this article is that there are times that even vinyl siding can its finish can become susceptible to things like the caulking and other insecticides, fertilizers that you might be spreading in the yard that get knocked up against the house. These are all chemicals, and they can actually cause fading and things like that in the finish of your siding. So think of that. I've got a good photo from the field that I'm eventually going to share of a house that I was like, the siding. I didn't use it for this topic because it's fiber cement board.
Okay.
We're talking about vinyl and composite, like wood siding, but this was fiber cement, or hardy board is like people like to call it. It's a brand name. Just had these just faded, just weird faded look to it.
Like water had been running down it or something?
Exactly. But there was no drain line. There's no leakage that I could see. And I just think it was because of the thin paint application that was probably applied to it at the time of construction.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it had worn away. But things like that can be caused by, like I mentioned, herbicides, pesticides, fertilizers, other materials, sealants, paint, all that stuff. So
and sometimes people are pressure washing.
Yes.
I mean, if you if you spray it on there and don't rinse it off and it's running, that's why I'm wondering, with the one you're talking about.
You're probably right. And actually, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's actually a part of some of our bullet points that we have today, because there is a technique that you want to use when you're cleaning your siding to make sure that you don't make maybe an ugly situation even worse. Mm-hmm. Right? So starting with the vinyl siding, for mold and mildew, the ideal solution that's recommended seems pretty simple.
Yeah.
Don't have to get any fancy with it, very fancy. You don't need to buy anything special. You can go to the grocery store.
Yeah.
Get vinegar, white vinegar, and water. 70% white vinegar, 30% water. Mix it in there, and you just, you could, small areas, if you have small areas on your house, you could even hand clean it without it being too much trouble. Larger areas, you might want to use a portable sprayer. Now, I'm not saying a pressure washer, a portable sprayer, like a lawn and garden sprayer.
I got you.
Something like that. I wouldn't go with much more pressure than a garden hose. Because if you get into I've seen mistakes made. I've seen the results of mistakes made from people using pressure washer on siding that you could tell they didn't have any experience.
Yeah. I pressure washed one of my first house by myself the first time, and it was. I mean,
you can see the circles.
I might as well have been writing my name on it. I should have autographed
autographing it. That's funny.
It was there's more to pressure washing than what people think. They think, hey, we're just gonna go spray it off. Well, I learned the hard way.
Oh man, it's intense.
You got to wait for a while for it to get dirty again. so my signature got off the side of the house.
That's funny. So mold and mildew is an easy fix. That's probably the easiest thing to get rid of. Mm-hmm. Now, there are other things that you can get on your siding that might be more stubborn. Like dirt, grime, even animal droppings, bird droppings. You got some birds with some good aim, you might need something like this. You do a third of a cup powdered laundry detergent, 2/3 of a cup powdered household cleaner. My notes here say canned household cleaner. What's the difference?
Like Comet?
Oh yeah, maybe.
It's the same thing.
Yeah,
it's powdered and it's
Does it matter what container it comes in?
I don't know.
All right, and then you have a quart bleach and a gallon of water. Mix that all up, and you've got your solution to get some more to take care of more stubborn, thicker stains. I guess. Apply with a sprayer and rinse with fresh water.
Okay.
Again, apply with a sprayer and rinse. Don't wait too long.
Yeah.
Don't let it sit, because that's probably why we had that situation. Maybe I should just I wish I would have pulled that. Now I wish I had that photo, because this house looked ugly, and I was like, dude, I'm going to have to repaint their house. Some of you might be asking, well, what about environmentally friendly solutions? If you've got, some of these cleaners and such might do some harm to vegetation in the area, depending on your shrubbery and everything like that. Well, one of the things you could do is tarp off that area, cover the areas that you're worried about. But you can also use this solution if you're protecting your landscaping or any other vulnerable areas. You do equal amounts of water to oxygen bleach.
Okay.
So
I don't know.
Sounds fine.
I don't know the difference.
I don't know the difference between oxygen bleach and others, but this will clean your siding without damaging any areas like grass, plants, flowers, or shrubs, things like that.
I wonder if does vinegar damage plants? I mean, I don't know. It just seems
white vinegar and water seems like it would be fine.
Afraid you go spray it on your garden and pickles will start growing.
Yeah, right.
They're afraid pickles growing straight out my garden because I done sprayed it with vinegar.
I got French fries. Good vinegar and French fries. Get the salt. So our next option that is covered in this article at closingcontractor.com is composite siding.
Okay.
Some recommendations with composite siding. Use a cleaner that's designed for wood, because basically composite siding is compressed wood held together with glue. Mm-hmm. So we don't want to go overboard, especially with water.
Right.
Because you'll just make it come apart. And who wants that?
Yeah, you don't want your house to start falling apart.
Yeah, this is the kind of siding I have on my house. Avoid abrasive or powder-based products that could actually, dig into it.
Yeah, you obviously have to be more careful with composite siding than with the.
It's more susceptible to damage. It's not as
and it's
durable.
generally painted.
Yeah.
So where the vinyl doesn't have that thin layer of paint over the top.
So that's baked in, that color. So if it's painted, you could actually remove. Yeah.
You start removing paint. You
know what else composite siding has a lot of times?
What's that?
Is a grain to it.
Yes.
Which leads us to our next bullet point. Work from the next is the next one. Work from the top and work down with composite siding. You don't want to do the opposite and be dripping all over the area you just cleaned.
That you already cleaned. That's just like any cleaning. I mean, it's always best to go top down.
Exactly. So the next bullet point is what I was getting at: clean with the grain.
Yes.
It's just like what do they say when you're painting or if you're staining wood? You always want to move the brush in the direction of the grain, otherwise it won't look natural.
Right.
What you're doing. So
well, if you tried to clean against the grain, you could probably start pulling splinters off of it too.
Yeah.
A composite siding. I could see that happening.
So yeah, that's important. Clean with the grain, and then work small sections. Now this is where I'm getting at. We were mentioning before. Don't let the cleaner sit there for too long. Work a small section, and then get that solution off the siding. Because if you let it dry, then you run into blotchiness, which no one wants to see.
Correct.
So that's no fun. And again, in both of these situations, we're using garden sprayers or garden hoses. Mm-hmm. Don't worry about having to get out the pressure washer. I know it might sound nice to be able to sit in the middle of your front yard and shoot water across the yard. But if you don't know what you're doing, chances are likely that you're going to run into making some mistakes that unfortunately could end up permanent.
Yeah, it's hard to reverse. Like say on a deck, go there, give it too much pressure, then now you got splinters popping up on the deck, and I've seen people have done that, and then
I've seen squiggly marks in even concrete and driveways because people try to pressure wash their own driveway.
Yeah, people think, okay, if I put it up closer, it's going to clean it faster.
I'll get done faster.
but then the space that you're cleaning is this wide instead of however wide at the bottom of the. It's a lot easier to go with a stroke that's a foot wide rather than one that's 1 inch wide, because you're not going to hit every single spot of something that's 1 inch wide.
Yeah. So always good to leave something like that to the professionals. So same thing with, I guess, the same techniques you would use. I think the composite siding solution would also work with fiber cement board or hardy plank. Mm-hmm. You're not worrying about it. At least with that, you don't have to worry about a product that is as vulnerable as the composite siding, wood siding. Mm-hmm. That's a good thing about that. So you could probably get away with even using the vinyl solution.
Yeah, I would just be careful if it's painted, though. I mean, just depending on. I wouldn't use the one with the abrasives in it.
That's true.
The vinegar and water. I think you'd probably be okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, you start putting the abrasives and stuff.
You get too rough with it.
You could end up losing some paint.
You could get the paint finished. And that may be what happened with this house. I would love to find out. So, I'll that one house that I was mentioning that I had photos of, I'll have to share that sometime. We're going to take a quick break. Again, for more on this, basically, before we go to a break, for more from this article and more from Closing Contractor, go to closingcontractor.com. And you can, if you weren't able to take notes, all of this information is there, so check it out. And we'll also share it on social media at Home Pros Radio. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all those fun places. So we're going to take a break. We'll come back, and it's time to finally cover that Flex Seal story. It's going to be an interesting one when we come back. Thanks for watching the Home Pros Radio Show. Shane and I would love to know what you think of the show, so we'd like to invite you to leave us a review.
At the Home Pros Radio Show, it's our goal to keep homeowners entertained, inspired, and informed. So let us know how we're doing.
Your review helps us ensure that we're including the content you want to hear and that we're reaching out to more homeowners just like you.
So click on that review button and tell us what you think.
Your relationship with your home is an emotional one. Your home provides a sense of pride for you and your family. Through ongoing training, past experience, and current technology, RIC Home Inspections can provide you with the most reliable and accurate information available so you can enjoy the rewards of your home ownership. Call RIC Home Inspections at 235-5505 or visit us online at richomeinspections.com. That's 235-5505. RIC Home Inspections. Love where you live.
The Home Pros Radio Show is brought to you in part by Screen Mobile of the Piedmont. Established in 1982, Screen Mobile National has been around that long, and they're the nation's largest screen installation and repair company. They offer many different options for windows, screens, whether it's a corporate location or even a home residential location, they can bring their mobile units out to you and repair your screens, replace them, or even create a whole outdoor environment that you can use to keep the bugs out with their screens.
I've always been impressed with the tent one, the one
Yeah.
that keeps your siding from melting or your neighbor's siding from melting.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's saying tint with an I to help cool things down. Yeah, for those of you who are not in the
Not from
South.
South Carolina.
Exactly. And that'll protect, some of your outdoor building products like your siding from melting. That's a good point. I never
It's
even
not
thought
always a
about that.
grill. It can be a window.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So give Screen Mobile a call. There's a Screen Mobile in your area. You can visit them online at screenmobile.com. If you're in the upstate of South Carolina, call Screen Mobile of the Piedmont, 864-641-7476. And we're back on the Home Pros Radio Show. Thanks for joining us. It's about that time this week for us to take our weekly visit to the news desk. All right.
You ready?
Typing away.
Just a typing.
Typing away our stories. So here it is, the story that I finally am able to cover, and we actually have video. Is this a good flooding fix? Spray foam
Okay.
and Flex Seal. It's usually the butt of our jokes, those of us who are home inspectors. Look what they use to fix this. Spray foam. It has its place, just like duct tape. It has its calling, if you will. And then you watch those Flex Seal commercials where they cut a boat in half.
Yeah.
And they put it back together with Flex Seal, and they're like, yeah, right, that works. You can't float down the river on a screen door. You kidding me? Well, I think a gentleman named Eddie Castro in Daytona Beach, Florida, might have proved us wrong. So what did he do? He owns a motorcycle shop in Daytona, Florida, and he decided when Hurricane Ian was coming that, I think I'm going to use some Flex Seal to protect my shop.
Yeah.
And guess what? It worked.
That's
Can you believe that?
That's good.
So, he posted the video of his undamaged store on Facebook during the flooding. That's the photo we have behind us. His store sitting there in about, 2 or 3 feet of water. And you can, in the video, he's cheering. We can't play the video, can't play the audio of the video because he's
Is he saying
throwing
bad
out some
words?
expletives. He actually says in his Facebook post, apologize for the language, but yeah. So in the video, he's walking around from window to window and finds that his waterproof seal worked. Everything in the store survived. You could probably click on it.
So I can play. Okay, I didn't know if I was supposed to play it or not.
You could probably even hit the maximize button down there in the corner, and it'll fill up the screen.
Where?
Down in the right-hand corner of the image, right here. So it'll at least get bigger. There we go. So the video's playing behind us for those of you watching the live feed. Castro says the idea to use spray foam as a seal around his doors and other places like that first came to him during Hurricane Irma. And he used the expandable spray foam to seal around doorways, and then he boarded up over the doorways. The problem was it didn't work because once look at inside, totally dry. He's looking in through the windows from outside. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, that's good.
So the problem was the expandable spray foam alone worked for a few hours, but by the time the water was able to sit with it for a while, the foam just kind of deteriorated. It soaked up the water like a sponge.
Okay.
So when he saw that Ian was coming this time, he sprayed the foam in all those places, but he took it another step further and applied the expandable rubber Flex Seal over the spray foam. And when it dried, it apparently had a good waterproof seal. He sealed his store about a day before Hurricane Ian swept through, and he said that he hopes his story helps. He wants to pass it on. This video went viral shortly after Ian, as people were just amazed at how well it worked. So it's pretty impressive. He says, I know it works and could help many people if they knew what I did and how I did. So he's trying to help other people out.
Well, that's good.
Help a brother out. Way to go.
I wonder how much Flex Seal he used.
That's a good question.
And because I'd be afraid I'm going to miss an
spot.
area somewhere. You know,
No, it's-
I'm gonna forget. Like spend all this time doing all of it, but miss one spot. Then
Well, that also makes
water-
me wonder, like, how did he know? I guess you kind of have to luck out and predict how high you go with it, because this is what, about 3 feet of water.
right.
Like, did he actually do the whole doorways? Did he? How? I mean,
Yeah.
you got to kind of hope that, because he could get away with only going halfway up.
Right.
I don't know.
And it'd just be out. That maybe that's why it's out there in case it got higher than what his previous limit was.
Yeah. So, yeah. So, very interesting. All right, here's the next story. This one's been hot on the presses. I've seen it on a couple of different news outlets. How would you handle it if you had just purchased a home and you're driving by it a couple of days before you're closing,
Okay.
only to see another family with a U-Haul in the driveway, and they're loading up their furniture into the house?
Oh
They're
gosh.
moving in.
Oh, I don't know how I would handle that.
Holy smoke! Well,
So
Maryland
they actually had a U-Haul.
Yeah, these people were moving into the house before another couple was slated to close on the same home. A Maryland couple facing this challenge. 2 squatters have refused to leave their property. The couple expected to close on their home. This is in Prince George's County, Maryland. When they discovered the squatters had moved in a couple days before closing, Realtor Melina King and their broker Wyvetro Jordan from the Home Team Realty Group have been all over the news lately going, what do we do? And this is why, because when the squatters were discovered by this couple, they presented, when they were approached, the squatters presented a written lease that they said was a valid lease.
Okay.
So the couple who was buying the house called the cops. Well, the police arrived on the scene, and they were like, well, there's nothing we can do. This is a civil matter. We can't just jerk them out of the house. I figured you'd be able to offer some perspective on this, being a former landlord.
Right. Well, I've
Hard
heard.
it is.
Well, I've heard of people renting out properties that they don't even own. So that's why I was waiting.
Oh my gosh.
Waiting
Yeah.
to see what happened. You know, like because they would get the deposit sent to them. Like they'd have the people go by and look at the house, and then they would have the deposit sent to them before they would move in, and then it would be somebody else's house. So you know there was a scam going around. It's been a few years ago
gonna try
that
to
I
pull-
heard about it.
There's a story I saw last night similar to that. As you're talking, I'm going to see if I can pull it up.
So that's why I was actually wondering if that's where this was going to end up going, or if the people that are, I'm wondering who's in the wrong here. Did these people actually really lease it from someone who tricked them into thinking they had a lease, although the person didn't even own the house, or is it the people that created this? But that's why I was just sort of waiting it out to see what the details were. Do you know the details?
I don't. And
And it probably hadn't even been determined yet.
No, So the issue is no one knows where this couple came from or where they got this supposed lease from. They're frustrated. The broker, Jordan, says that Maryland squatter laws are adding legal challenges because they're basically going, you got to take these people to court. And so what she's saying is, why should we spend taxpayer money on something, go through this whole process, and have all these things going on that's going to cost the government money to go to court over something that could simply be fixed.
Yeah.
Something that is simple as this, where it's like they obviously don't belong there, but it's just tricky. I remember when I had a property I was renting out, and we were having an issue with the folks paying rent,
Correct.
and it wasn't something where a couple of months of back rent pay doesn't come in and we can just kick them out. No, you had to go through this long process of eviction.
It's like a 90-day. I mean, you pretty much putting yourself out there to lose 3 months worth of rent whenever you're a landlord, pretty much, because if someone plays the system, they can, That I know that was always our issue. You can't just kick them out the first time that they don't pay. And then it's the whole process of putting the stuff out and having a police officer out there while it's going on, and you're paying somebody else to
That's
get their
what
stuff
they're
out of
basically
there.
trying to tell us we'd have to do, and I was like, that's just no fun,
Right.
And
That's why if you get a property with a good tenant in there, keep that good tenant. I mean, it's a lot better to keep a good tenant than to get a bad one. For say an extra couple $100 a month, it's not worth it because your turnover is going to be higher. Your time without anyone in the home. So, I mean, it's just not worth it if you have a good tenant in there.
Here is a related story that you just made me think of that I didn't cover. Maybe I could save it for next week. But basically, this is a Massachusetts man who, according to authorities, preyed on people who wanted to buy homes by collecting deposits on properties that had either already been sold or were not even for sale.
Right.
You got to have some.
Yeah.
You got to have
Yeah.
a backbone to do something like that. That's
Yes.
a nice way to put it. Mm-hmm. This is a real estate agent who was taking, earnest money payments.
Okay.
So he was sentenced just recently to 2.5 years in prison. Michael Flavin, 39, of Quincy, Massachusetts, cashed more than 60 deposit checks totaling about $1.8 million.
Oh, boy.
Over a 3-year period. And this is according to an attorney's statement in Boston. He executed purchase and sales agreements and received deposit checks from or on behalf of the potential buyers, even though the owners of the properties had not agreed to sell to those particular buyers. So I guess he just took the money and ran.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
And how did you get away with that for 3 years? Well, I mean, he didn't get away with it, but still, I mean, you'd think that after the first case.
Yeah, you'd think some of this would have shown up a little earlier, but I don't know. I don't know how he slid by that.
Well, he's paying the price now. He
Oh, yeah.
pleaded guilty and man. So I would say that's even more brave than just doing rental situation. But you've seen that before. Mm-hmm. Man, it's crazy. Well, if there's an update on this story of how that works out, it'll be interesting to find out. We'll have to share that one. All right, so even more freaky.
Okay.
I guess we're going down a dark hole this week. This story is from California. We have a suspicious dig in someone's backyard. Police digging into why someone buried a car in the yard of a multi-million-dollar Northern California home and left unused bags of concrete inside. Yeah, the car was discovered Thursday morning, just a few days ago, by landscapers in the affluent town of Atherton in Silicon Valley, police said in a news release. Cadaver dogs alerted to possible human remains in the car. But none of them had been found. Can you imagine? You're getting ready to put in your new pool.
Yeah.
The landscapers are out there with a backhoe, and they're like, we're hitting something. That's pretty freaky. Police believe, and we have a picture of the actual car on a flatbed truck being hauled off after they excavated it. That was the only photo I could find that was worth sharing, because I was hoping to get maybe a front elevation of the house or something, because they keep talking in here about this is an affluent area. This house is one of the wealthiest towns in the U.S. 7,000 residents within its nearly 5 square miles, and the property itself is valued at $15 million.
Did the people just move into this house?
It says, police believe the car was buried 4 to 5 feet deep in the 1990s.
Okay.
Before the current owners bought the home. I don't know how long after that they bought the home.
So how did they find it? Was it
landscapers were out there working on a project? They were digging, and they were like, "There's something about."
Yeah.
So
there's something about 4 feet deep.
Yes, we're hitting something. What is this? And they started excavating it.
Oh boy.
The unused bags of concrete were placed throughout the vehicle, though it was blanketed by dirt over the roof. It's weird. Unused bag. Were they trying to hold it down so it wouldn't float up?
I mean, yeah,
That's weird.
Doesn't make a whole lot of sense, does it?
So, but yeah, wow. You think you spend that much money on a home, you don't expect to find
a car in the backyard?
Something freaky like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, wow, that's crazy. So that's going to wrap up our news desk for this week. Uh-oh. My volume is turned down.
Gentlemen, let's broaden our minds.
So, what did we learn today? Well, just because you spend $14, $15 million on a house doesn't mean somebody hadn't been murdered there.
Right. That's going to be an interesting
This
story.
is another story I almost covered. But it would have been good coming off of Halloween. Loretta Lynn, she just recently died. Her house, they did a feature on her house talking about how she had always said it was haunted.
Yeah.
Her estate.
Okay.
So I'll have to read into that. Maybe it's worth sharing for next week. So, but yeah, it's very interesting. So that was one thing we learned that, just because you spend a lot on, oh man, you never know what you find, no matter what house you have. We also learned that Flex Seal does keep the water out. So think about that next time. I want to. It would be interesting to see the next time another hurricane comes through or something. How many people
use Flex Seal? Yeah.
It'll be interesting. So you want to go viral? This guy got 1 million views.
Go ahead and start stocking up on Flex Seal, so when people get ready to buy all of it, when everywhere else is out of it, you got a supply.
We learned about cleaning the exterior of our home. One of the biggest important lessons there that we covered is the pressure washing. Leave it to the pros. Shane learned from experience. Yes. And don't let that cleaning solution sit. So if you're using vinyl siding, vinegar and water and a detergent mix, something like that. Composite siding, just use something that's wood friendly. And don't let it sit. For more on these tips, go to closingcontractor.com and their blog page there. Ding. All right. Buyers' dads, they're great. That's what we learned. They're a lot of fun. They add a little spice to a home inspection and a real estate transaction. If y'all have any buyer's dad stories that you'd want to share, shoot us an email. ask@homeprosradio.com or leave it in the comments of our Facebook page or whatever social media you follow us on, @HomeProsRadio. And, we're dealing with the slowdown. We're just a few days from another election. Maybe something will change to make those interest rates work in our favor and speed us back up. Let's hope so. Whatever your political influence is, let's just hope it works for the betterment of all of our businesses.
Yes.
Right? Real estate, contracting, home inspections, all that good stuff. Thank you all for joining us this week. We appreciate it. Make sure you follow us, like us, share, and subscribe, regardless of, or I guess depending on what social media platform you're on. @HomePros Radio is where you can find us. If you have any questions, concerns, comments, shoot them our way. ask@homeprosradio.com. Thanks for joining us this week. We'll catch you next week on the Home Pros Radio Show.
Thank you for listening to the Home Pros Radio Show. If you have a question for the Home Pros, visit us online at homeprosradio.com, where you can also catch our podcast episodes and learn more about the topics and guests we bring to you each week. The Home Pros Radio Show is made possible by Prime Lending, RIC Home Inspections, Closing Contractor, Radon Recon, and Carolina Heating Service. If you are a trusted service provider in our area and would like to contribute to the show, send us a message through our Contact Us page at homeprosradio.com. Once again, thanks for listening to the Home Pros Radio Show.